Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we'll be talking about PTSD and my journey with recovery. Basically, I started studying psychology to get a better handle on my own mental processes and in order to be able to help others to deal with what they're going through as well, because I know that it can be a big struggle for a lot of people, and there's a lot of stigma around mental health in general, especially in the United States. So what I wanted to discuss was PTSD. PTSD has had a large effect on me individually, and I understand, like me being in the military as well, there are a lot of consequences that come with PTSD, and not knowing that you have PTSD can lead to a lot of turmoil. So I wanted to help alleviate that. The number one thing that you probably should know are the symptoms. So while we go through these, I'm going to give you guys like an outline, a sort of like brief explanation as to how it affected my life personally, and hopefully you'll be able to connect with that too. When we're talking about re-experiencing, these are things like intrusive memories, flashbacks, nightmares, and even in some rare cases, auditory hallucinations. This was the biggest thing for me with my PTSD. Not being able to control my own mind was a big deal, because before this, I was very much into meditation and making sure that my mind was right so that I would be able to better engage my environment and just live a happier life in general. So for me, I would have actually auditory hallucinations. I would have nightmares to being chased, just intrusive thoughts of, being taken out to the woods and tortured was a big one for me. One thing that I forgot to mention were obsessive thoughts. I definitely had a lot of obsessive thoughts about, how could I have changed this? Who is responsible for what happened? And that kind of falls in line with negative cognition and mood. We'll get to that later on. Avoidance. And my explanation for this is actually a little bit different from how it's reviewed in the DSM-5. So the way that I understand it is that it's behavior exhibited to avoid re-experiencing, whereas DSM-5 really just explains it as so to me, that doesn't really seem like avoidance, just the memory, the thought itself. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems more like avoidance would be a behavior attributed to those things. And I know for me personally, I would avoid the police at all costs, because my PTSD stemmed from an event in which I was helpless and the police were unfortunately involved. I won't get into the details, the specifics, but me being ethnic descent, I think it's pretty easy to put it together. And another instance where I was sexually assaulted by a family member when I was 14, and I had trouble with looking at photos of this family member, looking at myself in the mirror even. I had trouble connecting with classmates. My friends were telling me that I seemed very distracted and I wasn't really able to focus. I had a partner I would avoid. I wanted to avoid going over to his place a lot because his cousin lived there and his cousin was a police officer. And I didn't have any trust for police whatsoever at that time in my life. So it strained on our relationship. It was also extremely nerve-wracking. Just that environment alone was able to induce a physiological response in me. Like I would shiver, I would get like really upset physically, and it would show. I would shake, I would start to feel sick to my stomach, and my mind wouldn't stop racing. It was really bad. Dissociation, numbing, not being able to feel your emotions, flattening of your emotions. And again, like I said, other people are going to be able to see these things happening. You're not going to be the same person that you were, and people are going to tell you that like over and over again, and you're going to get tired of hearing it, and you're going to know it yourself. And that's probably the main reason you're probably going to get tired of hearing it, is because like that these things are going on. You know that you have something to, I don't want to say fix, but you have something that needs work inside yourself. You need to recover is what it is. You're also going to have diminished interest in activities and difficulty recalling the key aspects of the event. And then last but not least, we have arousal. self-destructive behavior, sleep disturbances, and hypervigilance. For me, this manifested as insomnia and irritability. I actually have one particular memory where I went off on my mom for something that she really didn't have any control over. It had more to do with just the family in general, and we were at a family gathering. It was embarrassing for her, it was embarrassing for me, and it really ruined my relationship with a lot of my family members just because they were all pretty much on her side, and I really don't blame them, because I was attacking her really on an emotional level for shit that she really couldn't control, and it wasn't a good situation. So something that my family didn't really understand, because they aren't necessarily educated in psychology, is that I was going through an episode of severe PTSD, and looking back retrospectively, it would have been really nice for them to listen and believe me when I told them that I had it. But at that point, it really didn't make any difference because I was already on my path to recovery. For me, not knowing that I had PTSD at that point in my life was actually detrimental because, like I said, it compromised my relationship. I ended up homeless and I wasn't in a good place mentally. I had a lot of the sexual trauma, which was unresolved. I had difficulty forming new relationships, forming new friendships, and overall I just felt extremely alienated from everyone. So I think it's very important for us to be able to talk about these types of things with our friends and family. Make sure that, if someone does go through something traumatic, that they have someone to talk to about what they experienced and that they feel supported, I think is the number one thing. As long as people continue to suffer through these things, they're gonna need support, period. And I think that the more that people kind of open up about mental health in general, and education about psychology becomes more ubiquitous throughout society, the more we're going to be able to accommodate people with PTSD and like stress disorders. So this is all that I have to say for this video. I hope that I covered enough. If you guys wanted to, chat a little bit about PTSD, your own experiences, with your friends, your family, yourself, and how you've recovered or where you're at in your journey of recovery, I would love to hear it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like my video, and I'll catch you on the next one.